Yes, it's true. Trees, just ordinary trees, tell us many a story. Were it not for trees, we could not determine dates for happenings of long ago. Trees furnish us with a climatic history back through the ages. I want you to meet a man who knows more about trees than anyone in the world, Dr. Andrew E. Douglas of the University of Arizona.
Of course, our founder, Andrew Ellicott Douglas, he was hired here at the university in 1906, and he was an astronomer, and he was originally interested in sunspot variations and how the sun affected climate. And so he began to look at tree rings to try to get a climate history that he could relate to the sunspot history. And along the way, he showed that you could develop tree ring chronologies that could be used to date the ancient ruins of the Southwest. And he did that work in collaboration with Emil Haury and a number of other archaeologists here in the 1920s. And when they were first able to tree ring date the ancient ruins of Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde, this was an enormous breakthrough. It was really, and still today, is one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in North America. And it was one of the really the first major scientific findings to be reported from the University of Arizona.
I worked for Douglas as his assistant for about a dozen years, and then we went through a period in which it was really problematical whether the tree ring laboratory would continue to exist or not. The decision was made, and again, thanks to Dr. Haury, who was very much a part of this, the laboratory did continue. This was Dr. Harville's, President Harville's decision. Well, the collections that are in this particular room are essentially all from archaeological, tree ring specimens from archaeological sites here in the Southwest, including northern Mexico. But it is here where, at least for me, this is like being home, because this is where I got my first introduction to dendrochronology, working on some of the samples that are still stored in this room. We must keep these samples because we have to go back to them from time to time, and as new materials come in, we have to get these materials out for comparison purposes.
Dr. Bannister has been a major contributor to our laboratory for decades, literally decades. He originally worked with Andrew Douglas and Emil Haury, and then was the longest lasting director in the laboratory for more than 2 decades. And he really built, I think Bear Bannister really built our laboratory, our modern laboratory. The current laboratory of tree ring research, I think, is really at an all-time high in terms of our productivity and numbers of graduate students and projects, really with global extent. In recent years, in particular, there have been many major applications in study of climate change and global warming. Some of our scientists have been studying the temperature history of the planet, for example, with tree rings from the northern latitudes and from high elevations. Tree growth is controlled by temperature. So using the ring records, we can study the history of the temperature of the planet. And so tree rings have been front and center on the study of global warming. There's a lot of activity around here because there's a game later on tonight. And on the left we have our hot dog stands and popcorn, and on the right we have tree ring laboratory offices. And this is the world's largest collection of ancient timbers. And of course, no smoking in the archive. And this wood is from all over the world. We have samples from South America, from Africa, from Europe, and North America. So it's really a world collection. And these are samples that several generations of tree ring scientists have collected and used to study climate history and archaeological history and geological history. And of course, we never throw our wood away because we believe that there's new information still to be found in the tree rings here. The Bell collection, this is wood from the mound cultures of the southeast. And this material has never been analyzed. It's a collection that we obtained decades ago but it hasn't been studied yet. So this is another great use of the archive is wood that people can come here to study and learn new things about environmental changes and cultural changes. Bristlecone pine are the oldest trees in the world. And some of our scientists, Edmund Schulman, discovered the bristlecone pines as being the oldest living trees. And over the decades, we've built long chronologies, tree ring chronologies, with observations and measurements of rings going back almost 10,000 years. And in this file cabinet here, we have the voucher collection, or the last remaining collection of the original wood that was used to calibrate radiocarbon dating. So right here, for example, these are pieces of wood from 2100 BC to 2200 BC. These are samples from some of the oldest